Town of Oakland for October 27th, 2021. Roll call, please.
Cambridge, we have Roses, said he could not make it tonight. Franklin.
Here.
Whitworth.
Here.
Galler.
Here.
Cumbier.
Here.
Schaefer Weiss.
Here.
McNally.
Here.
Oakland, we have Didion, Graffin.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Bratney.
Here.
Kapsner.
Here. All right, okay. Can we stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lisa, has this meeting been properly posted? And if so,
Yes.
explain.
We have posted it in the upper and lower levels of the Emerson Community Center, the Cambridge Post Office, Hometown Bank, the village website, and Susan, I don't know if you posted it additional places?
We posted it at the Oakland Town Hall.
Okay.
I see that we have a number of guests, and we also have treats. We don't normally have treats, but boy, we laid it all out tonight.
We always do with the joint meetings, we always bring treats.
They're on the back table, and everybody please help yourself, all right? Don't want to go home with this stuff. Okay, we're going to move on to item 3, appointing a chairperson.
Who do I have chair tonight?
So, do you want me, I'll move to appoint Jean Kapsner as the chairperson.
Okay,
Someone wants a second?
What was the motion?
appointing a chairperson.
She picked Jean.
Well, I'll second that.
Right?
Do we have another nomination?
No,
Mark McNally?
I'll second Mark.
Or both? Joint.
Why not? He doesn't want it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All those in favor of having me chair this meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Abstain. Opposed? Okay, I guess I get to do this. All right, we're going to move on now. We want to talk, we have an agenda. I don't know if everybody has seen this, but the first thing up that we want to talk about is Blue Jay Way.
We're going to approve the minutes from,
Oh,
The revised agenda with the approval of the minutes, and I want to thank the Oakland staff. We were looking for the minutes, they were looking for the minutes. Our former clerk is gone, my former deputy is gone, we couldn't find the minutes. So they did go back to Gary's YouTube video and prepared the minutes, which I handed out. So thank you guys for doing that.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 31st. Oh, I can't, I wasn't there. Sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 31st, 2019 meeting.
Second.
all right, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those that were there in favor of approval of the minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And we have one abstention. Okay, that is abstaining. That's it? All right, thank you. And
Is there no space for public comment in this meeting?
I guess I did not put that on, I was going off our
We
previous
could do
ones.
that, wouldn't be a problem.
okay,
We can allow public
Yeah.
comment.
all right.
People that-
For ladies and gentlemen in the audience, this is a chance for you to come up and share with us your concerns, your ideas on how to make Town of Oakland and the Village of Cambridge a stronger alliance. Does anybody care to speak? Okay. All right. Well, we're all right with that. Okay, I'm going to move on. Okay. Okay, discussion and possible action regarding Blue Jay Way and the LRIP grant. We've asked Joe DeYoung to come in. And Joe, why don't you come up to the table and just, let's talk about this. I know that we've had this before, and it's something that's got to be dealt with. There are some drainage issues, structural issues, and that kind of thing.
Question, Mark, I'm fine. Who is Joe DeYoung and why is he here?
Yeah, he'll introduce himself.
And that's fair. I guess, my name's Joe DeYoung with MSA Professional Services, and I just started working for the village now. Honestly, I don't think it's been a year yet.
Couple of years.
Yeah, well, I've been a couple of years, but officially appointed to your engineer like this year, just last year. So anyway, I think the key is that I knew about Blue Jay Way when I was here previously. I know there's been discussions between the township and the village as well, dealing with who's responsible for the road. And I'll be honest with you, that's not something that I'm here that I can settle. I don't think we're gonna change anybody's opinions. I think one of the biggest things that I heard is that I think there's some common ground between the two entities that is worthwhile to have this discussion to decide what to do. So again, I know there could be some opinions on what could be done and what's responsible, but with it, I did see a possibility, a way to help pay for the road in case you do have some common grounds on what you think is necessary. With that, I did approach Lisa. We had a long discussion about this application that's coming up, and then I also talked to your clerk as well, yep. And I'll be honest, she's very knowledgeable of it. We had a great discussion. She knew a lot about what was going on. And obviously with this application coming up in a short deadline, I think it's important to at least have this discussion tonight, and then you guys can decide what to do. The governor, obviously, if you're aware of the budget, added $100 million for road projects. It wasn't 2 years ago or a year ago during the election that he gave also $75 million, where there was $1.4 billion that were applied for. This year, he upped it to $100 million, but he changed it on where you have to apply for, and that's some of the things that just isn't getting advertised as much. The LRIP program has different types of funding. One of them is called discretionary, one of them is a small pot, but that's not what we're talking about here. But there's a discretionary and there's a supplementary funds. And altogether, there's $166 million are set aside for road projects with this. One of them for $100 million can be set aside, that'll be 90% funded, 10% local match. The other one is closer to 50-50, depending on where you qualify. And because I knew a little bit about the project, I at least wanted to approach the village and obviously talk to the town of Oakland to just have some consideration on whether or not you think it's worthwhile to apply. The reasons why is because there's certain things they're looking at the score. There's no guarantee for a grant, it's an easy application, but once you get past the county, it goes to a statewide competition in March, and you need to have it in place. But there's things that you have that could obviously benefit both parties. One, you got common grounds that you think the road is junk. Okay, I don't think anybody's gonna disagree with it. I think there's obviously a commonality there that you know the road is poor, and everybody would love to see it replaced. Whether you're on one side or the other, it doesn't matter, it's in bad shape. The other thing you have is that there is some concerns, and obviously about who's responsible for it. Either way, both entities have an interest in seeing it approved. For one reason or another, both the village and the township would rather see it approved, and what can you do? So I put it like this: if we can get 90% funding and only have to come up with 10%, even if you can come up with $100,000, you could get up to $1 million project done. And so when you start talking about those numbers, then sometimes it gets easier to make that decision, but the only way to do it is to apply. And the third thing I think it's commonality is that you both have interest in the school district. Knowing that there's could be safety concerns, things like that, and ways to improve it for the school, if not the school, the residents that live on the street. I do think that you do have some commonalities that go past and beyond who's responsible for the road. So I'm just trying to call it out, say what it is. But I think together, when the grant looks at the scoring, there's 4 things that they're looking at. One of them you don't have any control over. One, obviously the condition of the road, and is there any economic development and benefit to it? Okay, obviously the road, bad, okay, we all agree with that, but economics maybe have a slight thing. Safety is another issue. The fact that you're next to a school, I think, would really help your application. The third thing that's unique, that not a lot of people can do like you, is a joint agreement between 2 entities. If you can come to an agreement and kind of have some understanding, and what I think is the best way to apply, which is going to give your odds, I think, better to score and win this thing, I think if you can come to agreement with a memorandum of understanding that you're doing this jointly as a joint application, even though there has to be one that's the head of it, you have to pick it in order to decide who is the lead of this application. I do think it's going to help your score. And the last one is they want to spread out the money. They don't want it all one spot. So Jefferson County, Dane County, not that there won't be more than one in one location, but they do like the idea of spreading it throughout the state of Wisconsin. Obviously, you have no control over that. So with that being said, I have looked in it. Obviously, I know that you had representation at both meetings, Dane County, which is where the village of Cambridge needs to submit to, and also Jefferson County, which is obviously where the town of Oakland goes to these meetings. The application is coming up due, and I'm not sure of the date, but it's going to be coming up. It's a very easy application. But if you guys can come to an agreement to apply for it and at least see where you end up. Because when you have the funding, it's not next year it has to be built. You have 5 years to do it. You miles put in for a nice sized project, look at it, but my recommendation would be to submit it under the town of Oakland. 2 reasons. First of all, the competition in Jefferson County compared to Dane County is day and night difference. So I'm going to tell you that right now is that there's a better chance. Second, the amount of funds set aside for townships is definitely better than it is for the villages and cities. So that's 2 things that I can tell you for sure that's an absolute benefit. The third, when you start looking at the story that you're going to put behind this, it's a school, it's in bad shape, and you look at saying that, it has some type of residential feeling, it's different than the majority of the applications that I'm going to see for the rest of the townships that are going to be submitting. So when you think about it, if you're a township, and I'm dealing with a lot of counties, Columbia County, Dodge County, Dane County, Greene County, all these ones, Rock County, I'm putting applications for, most of them are all rural sections of road that don't have any schools associated to it, barely have any farmers, just about, what kind of highway traffic do they have and how many people are using it. It's more the common application I see within the townships. So I know I was asked here to come and talk, and I'm giving you my recommendations with it. I want to at least make sure you're aware. I do think you guys have some commonality, but I hate to say it, we can sit here and decide that who's responsible for a long time, but the road still sits the way it is. If there's a way for you to get 90% funding, I guarantee you that my recommendation would be to split it, 5% each, and get this thing done and go from there. I'd also, to be upfront with you, is that if there's any utility improvements, sanitary and water, I'm just being upfront, that is the village's responsibility. Whether the village, I don't know if I'm going to say that or not, but obviously those are things that make sense to get replaced while the road's getting replaced. But those are things that are not grant eligible and would have to be the responsibility of the village because they're your utilities. So that's how I would present it. Storm sewer, gravel, curb and gutter, sidewalk, safety improvements, obviously pavement, those are all eligible costs that you can include as part of the grant reimbursement. So with that being said, I don't know exactly, I don't know how many agenda items you have, and there's a lot of things, but if this is one thing that maybe we can work together, I'd be happy to help the township on getting what they need for information. They can submit it themselves with their own, it's not a WAMS account anymore, but having their own DOT ID, they can get this in. But I do think that you have a pretty good story that I would encourage you to consider applying and just seeing if you can get one of the 2 fundings. So with that being said, I'm here for questions. I'll be honest, she was very knowledgeable when I talked to her. And again, Sandy? Susan, darn it. So Susan, she was well aware of it. We talked about it, so I know that you're considering other projects as well in the township. From a village standpoint, they are as well, but they have to apply through Dane County, and it's going to be more competitive, and again, it won't be competing against yourselves.
Clarification, Joe. Per the state, it is a township road. They get the state aids for it. So could the village even apply, or would it have to be?
Sorry about that. 2 things. Obviously, I don't know the limits of it, and it could cross boundaries, so there could be a definition of who could apply for it. I think one of the things you would have to talk about are limits, but to be honest, if the majority of it is in the township, it almost forces your hand to apply for it. I do strongly encourage you. I think that's where your best chance is for success, because I know their pots are a little bit bigger, and your story is going to sound better from a township standpoint than a village application. But I think if the majority of the road is in, you got to understand, when other joint entities are doing it, there's a good chance that it's going right down the middle of the property line. I think the fact that you're working together and the fact that there is some areas of interest that have both, that's why it can be a joint application. But one has to be the champion.
Did you say that there's a limit of 5 years in which to implement this if the grant was successful?
This grant cycle comes out every 2 years, so it's a biennial cycle, and then it gives you like 5 years is what I tell people in order to implement it. So the competition starts where you gotta have it into the county and under their schedule that goes through the highway commissioner. And then by January 14th or 15th, they're required to get it into the state. Now, every application that goes in goes to the state. But some counties are different. Jefferson County by far and away is the most organized. But they go in, they have a ranking, and they send that rankings to the state. So every township, from what I understand, will get theirs in, and then they get a committee together to decide who's first, second, or third, and they submit that to the committee that decides everything in the state. Obviously, being one of the higher ranked ones in your county is gonna only help you, along with the joint application, along with the safety concerns that you should be focusing on in order to do it. The application itself, it's pretty simple, putting together the forms, what you wanna do, but you need a cost estimate, a description, and then obviously, I think, supporting documentation that you have a joint agreement with both entities that this is being applied to together.
From the meeting that I was at, it was my understanding that it could be up to 80-20
Yeah,
and could be less than that, share, cost share. A town has to have a project of $100,000 minimum.
yeah,
Village has to have a minimum of $250,000.
correct.
2 years ago, I had our road guy get a bid for resurfacing that, tear the old stuff up, grind it up, and resurface it. The bid at that time was like $60,000.
Yeah,
At that rate, I don't think we'd even get to 100. And the
Again-
town of Oakland, we already have a grant almost done that we'll be submitting probably next week, Susan. And the chance of a town applying for 2 grants is probably nil.
no, you're right.
So,
I would disagree with what Mr. Katz is saying. We have a road plan improvement, and this would cause us to put off treating one of our more seriously traveled roads, which is what our project has been over the last 4 years, is to take care of all of our most traveled roads. And I have a roads list of 11 projects that we're waiting on.
Yeah.
And we don't have money to do. So you're asking us to give up something that's rather critical and a part of our planning process. to
in
do
order
this.
to apply for this, you do have to supply your 5-year road plan.
Yes.
And Blue Jay Way is not on that road plan of ours.
And
It hasn't been for several years now.
Since it, yeah.
Okay, and now, obviously, this is an idea, guys, and I'm not asking you to give up anything. And obviously, I'm not asking you to say that you have nothing else going on in your township. So, from those standpoints, again, gosh, I'm sorry, it's so hard. For those standpoints, you're absolutely correct. I'm not aware of it. I think there's an understanding that there's also a disagreement on who's responsible for the roads. So if you don't think 60,000 obviously is just gonna be a replace and removal, which you can imagine the cost of that, obviously that's what you're getting. You're not really doing a reconstruction, you're not replacing the base course, you're milling it up, you're putting down a new surface, and you're probably spending, let's just say 45 million, or 45,000 is all going towards pavement. Most of the cost of that is pavement, and that's where your big dollars are. And so when you look at that, the curb and gutter, the things that go with it, new gravel, widening out, whatever you want to do, adding sidewalk along a school, that would obviously be a completely different project that we're talking about and trying to get completed there. So that's one. Two, if it's got other projects, you're absolutely correct. There hasn't been a single community I've gone to that always had one need. I'm just looking for the ideas of skinning. So I don't know your other project. But if you're going for that application, there's 3 different pots. So if you're just doing a $60,000 project and you're going for a small pot of money, or if you're going for the
We're going for
discretionary for the
relatively-
MLS,
we're
yeah,
going for
so what is the
relatively
size of that other project you're doing, 100,000?
Probably 900,000.
900, so you have another big project with a full road that's probably miles upon miles. Okay, so I do agree with what you said, you are better off just submitting one. So if you're asking my advice and you're talking to the town board, my advice was you do have to pick one. And if it's not Blue Jay Way, guys, we can't force you, the village can't, I can't, I'm not trying to sit here and force it. We want to at least have the discussion because you do have an issue out there that you guys do disagree with. And if we have the possibility, what I do ask you is if you look at the 2 jobs, which one sounds more competitive if you're competing in the state of Wisconsin? And if you tell me about it, I can tell you what your arguments would be, I can tell you what separates you, because I think I'm doing about 30 of these through our office, and I can at least tell you what I would say if it was me making that argument of what separates you from at least the ones that I'm involved with. So we can talk about that after the fact. I'm willing to take phone calls. I mean, if you're obviously got to get time to think about it. But applications, if you're at the meeting, what's the date? November?
No, October. The grants are due to the county in Jefferson on November 15th.
November 15th, and then you're going to have a meeting?
That's the only date that I know
Okay.
right now is November 15th.
Yeah, so they have a meeting coming up, so by mid-November, you're gonna have to get an application in Jefferson County and decide what you wanna do. At the end of the day, if you're gonna cooperate, getting the memorandum of understanding with the village is something that you'll need from them in order to make it done by that meeting. If you decide to go another path, obviously, you decided to go another path. So I'm
What
not.
is the other path? What is the other road that you're prioritizing?
Us?
Yeah.
The other path is Cambridge taking
No,
No,
no, what is the other road?
What's the other road that the
For
township is
Oakland.
Park
considering?
Road.
Park Road, between
Park?
12, between 12 and 18.
Okay.
Do you know what your ADT is?
That's a main.
Say again?
How many, what's your daily traffic?
More
That number's a
traveled
big
than the
deal.
school?
I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Hmm.
The second most traveled road, and
So you
actually
guys are
very
a
close to
big
the
use
top.
road.
And we have drainage issues, we have a number of different issues.
Oh, yeah.
And we have,
payments.
part of our plan that we have been doing each of our major roads the last 5 years. This will be the last major that we have to do. And I have tons of roads. You have to remember, towns have more miles of roads.
Absolutely.
Like 80% of the state is covered by towns. That's why there's all this money for towns. It's not that the governor likes us. It's that there's more of us.
You have more miles in a township than you do have in a village, that's why you have more money.
Right.
But what is unique about you is the thing that has to separate you. So you have a busy road. Well, this is the questions I'd be asking you. What is the ADT or average daily traffic on one road versus Blue Jay? Just what is it? Second, what is your Paisley rating for both roads? And then two, what's surrounding it? So what is benefiting? So we can talk about the school, I know Blue Jay Way, but if you talk about the other one, economic development growth, what's occurring on both ends of it? What traffic is cutting through? Where does the benefit come from for you to keep up with that traffic? Are the loads heavier? So I'm just giving you ideas of things that I'm talking about with my other townships, that those are the things I'd look at, because you should only apply for one. I will agree with you there. If you apply for two, you're just fighting yourself.
Yeah.
Because even at the county level, you're having the county decide. Go ahead.
If you're recommending that they do not apply, the town of Oakland, can we apply?
Well, let's go through that. So first of all, I'm not recommending they don't apply. I'm recommending here's the pros and cons. You guys got to decide. And so I'm not sitting here telling you what to do. I'm just going to give you the pros and cons. And whoever, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to get mixed up who's town and who's village, but I'm just talking in general. Now, from the other standpoint, like Lisa said, depending on how big the limits are for Blue Jay Way, you do have to have enough, and we would have to qualify with the guy at the state, what it would take for the village to be eligible to apply for this project. So let's turn the table around. If we make the project big enough and include maybe a little bit more that goes around the corner and into the village limits a little bit in order to qualify, which I don't know what road that is, I'm not saying I have an answer for you tonight, but if we could qualify this as a village project, the village would be forced to compete for the less money, go to Dane County, try and get that ranked higher, and do it as a joint project with you, given the memorandum, the township having support with a memorandum of understanding in order for them to apply for different funds. So I hope that makes sense, because ironically, we probably could apply for the project together, because when it gets to the state, it's two different counties, it's two different entities deciding where the money's going, and it'd be funny or ironic that if you both win, but at the end of the day, that is an option as well that you could look into. I
So
don't know
our
the answer.
joint application might not be seen as competition for the Park Road application.
No, it wouldn't be.
So that seems like a good way to move forward.
Well, and I'm gonna throw this out here, but Chris, are you applying for a different project as well? Do you have the same issue?
Right, but I can only apply for one.
Yeah, same thing I just told the township, that the village is not in the best interest to apply for two as well.
Right, I'm applying for one.
Yeah, but we could
Just
make a
that-
continuation of that, of Blue Jay Way, and take it into North Street.
Is North Street connecting?
Yeah, they're
No.
connected.
No.
No, it's not.
Two roads are connected.
They're not.
No, not really. There's a small spot that
I'll look at it for you, but you guys would have to make that choice as well. I would encourage you only apply for one, because once you get to the county, if you have 2 applications, there's at least probably 3 or 4 in Dane County that you're competing against that I know about.
4 or 5 years ago, we had a place to redo Blue Jay Way, curb and gutter, sidewalks and everything, and also put new sewer in and storm sewer. It was right at $1 million, so
Yeah.
it's probably $1.5 million today, or $2 million.
The last quote we had, Ted, at one of our meetings was $894,000.
There we go.
Yeah, you guys understand, what you decide to do will control the cost. I'll tell you that right now. I heard a quote of 60,000, I heard $1 million to 1.5, 894. All of it is all about the items you complete. Don't touch the sidewalk, narrow up the road, rural section, curb and gutter section, all that makes such a difference. If you're going to apply for the grant, go high. You can always reduce it, but they will not give you more money. And you think you look attractive by, showing that you're cutting down, it doesn't matter. Your story is what matters.
So if Cambridge applies for our road, Oakland applies for their road, but we still have this shared, is that 3 projects? Will it
Well-
be viewed as 3 projects? Because our
No.
joint project is our joint
Yeah.
kumbaya
Well, let's
version.
just, you can't use one grant to pay for the other.
Nope,
You'd have
I'm not
to-
saying that.
I know,
That's
but-
3 grants.
Well, 3 grants?
Well, because we have a road, they have a road, and we have a joint road.
Yeah, you can't.
Okay.
And so my question, it is in the village limits, but it is all a township road.
Right.
So can we apply for a road that is not our road?
No, you'd have to have a joint road where you'd apply, but it would be crossing boundaries. So you could apply, but it has to have some of the road in the village limits. So like this road over here would have to be included, or,
Simon Center,
I'm trying to look for
Potter's,
something
yeah,
that's yours.
Simon Center,
That's all.
well,
There's like
Yeah.
this spur right
Potter's
there.
is theirs as well.
But
That belongs
when you
to
say,
us.
go back to your question, to have 3 projects, you still, it'd be, someone has to be the champion of that 3rd project.
I see.
So someone, let's say you guys, you want to do it, okay, I don't think there's anybody that says, gosh, I wouldn't want to get take care of it. If I can get 90% funding, I doubt there's anyone here that say, I would love to do it. If it only costs you 5% of the eligible cost. So the issue is who's willing to apply, and do they have the support of the other entity? And each one, you have to answer that. I can't do that. You guys can't maybe decide tonight, maybe you can. I don't know exactly how these work, but at the end of the day, you have till, let's say, November 15th to finally make an application. Dane County's due November 8th. I do know that. So we're almost done getting it. We obviously can switch it out. I don't have any concern with that from Dane County standpoint. But both of you would have to decide and make a decision. And so, I go back to the common ground. You can amend your plan. I mean, if they add it to your capital improvement plan, I can tell you right now, it's not on the villages either. So they don't have that on their, is it?
Blue Jay?
Yeah. Okay. But it can be amended to be included before it goes to the state.
Yeah, but you're talking some real serious dollars here, because 5% of a $100,000 project is $5,000. 5% of a $1 million project is $50,000.
But it isn't gonna be 5%, Mark. It'll be 80%, it'll be 20% our responsibility at a minimum. 2 years ago, when this went through, the majority of them went through at 70 to 75%.
Yeah,
They only grant so many at the higher level, and then they start reducing down
Yes, they
from
did.
there. And it depends on where you end up in that process. So we could be at a 50-50 of $1 million.
You
It's-
could.
They granted 50-50 grants last time around on these.
Well, again,
So-
you're talking about it, I've seen every negotiation, I have seen up to 90%. So at the end of the day, there will be a counter offer if something comes back to you. But I can tell you this right now, if you're trying to get the road done, and you think it has to be done, whether you agree with it or not, unless you're just gonna do the simple overlay and leave it the way it is that the best interest of the school? Does that improve safety, things like that? But if I can get this done for $200,000, and it costs you $100,000, you're looking at a $900,000 project. You know that road costs are high. I can't change that, but this is one way for you guys to consider getting it done, even if it costs you $50,000. Because if you think $50,000 is a lot, okay, we had a cost of $1 million before. And I can't change cost of construction. And next year, I think is gonna be one of the worst years of bidding. that I'm gonna see with the amount of funding that's out there. So if you do get it, I'm gonna encourage you not to do it next year anyway. I'll congratulate you and say, let's talk in 2 years. Which again, prices change, you will not get more money. That's why I said, make sure you shoot high, but if we have to reduce it in order for you to fund it, then we can start talking about the design in order to control that cost.
But I thought, oh, I'm sorry, Ted, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna ask Lisa and I'm gonna ask Chris. I thought that road was 15 years old currently, and it's got a life expectancy of about 30? Does this sound familiar, Chris?
Older than.
And so we would be replacing a road that's into half of its life expectancy.
It's older than.
You're wrong there.
Oh,
If it had curb and gutter and everything in it, when it was originally built, we might get 30 years out of it. When you don't have curb and gutter and proper drainage and,
Well, I'm
things like
talking-
that,
we didn't
stuff like
overlay
that.
that road in the last 15 years.
How much?
The town didn't overlay that road in the last 15 years. I've been on the
No,
town board
it's
longer.
older than 15 years
He-
old.
Much old.
Much
You gotta
older.
understand, when you guys talk about rebuilding it, the life expectancy of a road that I've been taught is 20 years. Okay, but the issue is that nobody, okay, one township I know of, nobody can afford to rebuild roads every 20 years. All roads, chip seal, overlays, get rid of the cracks, crack fill, and all that stuff. They've extended the life of the road as much as you can in order to make it work. And I guarantee you, when you start thinking about the number of big projects you've done over a 20-year period, it doesn't come close to covering your roads, and that's for a township and a village. And so when you look at this road, I can guarantee it's over 15 years, but you might have put a 2-inch overlay at some point, you might have done a chip seal at some point, you might have crack filled. I mean, those things are pretty common, but it gets to a certain point, and I don't know what the Paisley rating is. I'll be honest, I haven't really just looked at it that close. But at the end of the day, life's road project lasts depending on what you do for maintenance and how much you're willing to put up with. But I wouldn't be shocked at all that your roads have an average of maybe 40 years before its last major reconstruction. And I'd be shocked if it's not more than that.
And right now with the aids that we get, we can rebuild our roads once every 90 years.
Yep, that is, I've done the math, I've had to do it in presentations to townships, and it's a joke to think that there's even the feasibility of doing it. It is coming out of your tax base, that's why grants like this are very important for you to know about it, and then make the choice what's best for you. I cannot say that. I know you're waiting to say something, so I'm gonna go right to you.
Well,
so you
I
get-
want, Mark,
Go
if you
ahead, go
can.
ahead, Ted.
You know, we're Johnny come lately into this whole thing, and at this point, we are fairly well set on what we're gonna do, and to change out of that really kind of messes up our long-term plan on roads. And you have every reason to believe that there will be another biennial,
Yeah, there
because
will.
this has been extremely popular. And so I think what maybe makes sense is for us to either appoint a couple of our members to work together to come up with a solution to how we would proceed in 2 years. And give us, you know, for the next biennial process, and attempt to resolve some of these other issues, because, you know, we have the thing, you want to do sidewalks and streets, and we say, you know, our standards are a little bit different. And I think if we started now looking to that and working towards the idea that in 2 years we'll have a joint project and we agree that that's important enough and we all say, yes, we're gonna do that, maybe that's the way to go. Gene, you could comment on that too.
Well, if we were doing that road, we would do it to town standards,
Yeah,
which is basically grind it, pull any soft spots out that are in there if there are, and I know there's one, and then resurface it.
yeah, you said 60,000.
Right. Today, that's probably 75, but, I mean, that's what it was 2 years ago.
So I just,
But if the village does that, from what I understand, is they'd want to do it to village standards, which is curb and gutter, sidewalks, all that. And if they do that, they're going to have to lower the road. So that's going to require them to change water lines, sewer lines. You're talking about pretty major stuff. So,
yeah, I'll just put it this way. If you think it's $60,000 to $75,000, I'm gonna use 50 for easy math. So say you were gonna invest 50,000, and I get the village to invest 50,000, and we get that grant, you're looking at a $700 to $1 million project for the same cost. So I'm not sitting there saying that, oh, you're responsible, we wouldn't have sidewalk. I agree with you. You can argue about that all the time. But if I can take your $60,000 investment and put in a $1 million road, it gives you the chance to do it. That's what I'm telling you. So you can spend all the time going back and forth, and you will. I've been in enough committee meetings and stuff that obviously people are gonna see what they have to, because you're right, you're making a great point, you're right. But if you're willing to invest that, and I can get that same kind of commitment from the village, now we're starting to talk about a major project that, I hate to say it, one, it makes it a lot easier to maintain, two, it really deals better with the stormwater drainage, and three, it's a lot better for your school for safety.
It's a huge safety concern. I don't know why this isn't brought up more, that you have both schools, I mean, both Oakland children and Cambridge children and all the children of the communities attending an incredibly unsafe road with buses, kids taking spills in the road because of the soft spots and the potholes, kids getting knocked over on their bikes because of the quality of this road. And while I agree that Park Street is also a very important road, I'm really struggling to find a greater group of people who deserve a road than the kids who go to school here.
Well, and I have talked with Margie Banker, about this, and so she knew we were actually going to be meeting tonight, and we're just discussing it, so I totally agree with you. I want to go back to what you were saying, Ted, about having a couple of people from each municipality sitting down and just looking at this and saying, okay, what can we do with the timetable, with the LRIP, with monies that are available to see what can be done. If the town does it, we don't have to put in the curb and gutter and the sidewalks. And by the way, I thought this high school was going to do that anyway. Didn't we have that?
I think we suggested it to Bernie that if he wanted the sidewalks,
Okay.
that maybe it was appropriate for them
Okay.
to
And
fund.
again, there's a new superintendent. But I like the idea. I mean, maybe it's just having 4 or 5 people, 2 and 2, and then, an engineer or somebody that can help us. What about the rest of you? How do you feel?
Well, before you go to that, 2 things I want to clarify. The LRIP program will be here in 2 years. You mentioned it, it's common, I've seen it way too many years, that next 2 years there'll be another thing. About 66 million is average, that's what they do. I cannot promise you there'll be another 100 million that they're offering at the 90-10 split. That is something I cannot. They had 75 million last year because of the election. Governor Evers came through it, he put another 100 million in this budget. I don't know what he's gonna do in 2 years. So I don't wanna mislead you, because he first wasn't gonna put it as part of
It's a
this.
re-election year.
Yeah.
I'll take odds on that.
You can take the odds, I can guarantee you something like this has been very popular, but this year when they switched it, less people are doing it. They're not aware of it. We're not hearing the discussion. That MLS, I couldn't believe the number of people that were applying, putting stuff in this year, because it's through the discretionary, or through the LRIP program. It seems to be a lot less interest.
Okay.
I have a question. You mentioned something about a 20-year lifespan. Would that be if the $1 million project went through? You're saying that the road would last approximately 20 years?
When we talk about life expectancy of road, when you talk to the DOT, they have a plan for it every 20 years. Town and village roads, no. Everything I've seen goes a lot longer than 20 years. The life expectancy for a road like this, and to be honest, if it's done properly both ways, rural standards versus municipal standards, not much different. Get the drainage, have deep ditches, put storm sewer in with curb and gutter to get the water out of there. Both of them have, to me, the same type of life expectancy, depending on how well you take care of it from that standpoint. Water is the devil of roads. It's in your base course, you get the soft spots, those things. Having proper drainage will help your road a lot more. The pavement is just the roof on your house. The structure, the base, that's the important part. So 20 years is just what they say, but you will
Probably
make it
longer.
farther than that if you can reconstruct it. And I know what you're talking about, is 60,000 is not a reconstruction, but if you put new gravel, build it up, get proper drainage, go through that effort, it will last a long time too.
Chris, did you have a comment you could make? Department of Public Works for Village of Cambridge?
Yeah, I was just curious that maybe, we can maybe come up with a joint solution with what Gene just mentioned, which is the mill and overlay, and possibly split the cost with the mill and overlay, and that gives us a little bit of time so we can work together as a team, like you mentioned, Ted, come, get a joint team together. So right now, we have the mill and overlay that'll work and take care of the safety aspect of it. And then we work, you set up the team, you guys decide what team you want to set up. I'm willing to be part of that. And then maybe, not necessarily in 2 years, but maybe that mill and overlay will last a couple more, 4 years or whatever the case is. And then we go in and we drive towards what we want to do.
It's interesting. So basically, you're saying, do the fix now, as the town proposed. I don't know if it'll be 60,000 next year, but let's just say you're gonna do something soon and do it in 60,000, come up with a way to split it and get it done, then you can wait and apply for the bigger project if the opportunity persists with putting a little committee together. It's something that you guys could consider. I do say with the committee idea that, to decide if one of you wanna apply this year and get the support, to at least talk about it and decide, maybe one of the entities do wanna do it. Obviously, I know where you stand, but I couldn't tell you who else is on your board, so if you vote and say, nope, we're sticking with our plan, going with Park Street?
Park
Thank
Road.
you,
Park Road.
Park Road. Hey, I'm here as a resource, hopefully for anyone. I'm happy to talk about it. I tell you what I would say if this is part of mine, what you sound different, for both entities, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, but this has to be done by November.
Yeah, that way, you gotta decide that one fast. If
Yeah,
you don't,
yeah.
and to be honest, if you don't, you're deciding already. But if one of you wanna step up, I just hope that the other one's willing to sign a memorandum to work out a deal. That would be really important in order to get that application, whether it's a village or a township.
Okay. So how do we feel about Ted's idea? But, Ted, do you think that this would pay a dividend that we'd be able to capitalize on between now and November 16th, or?
No, I don't think we can do this before November 16th. And I don't know,
Yeah.
I know the other responsibilities that I have, what Gene has, to try and pull something like this together. And you guys have got some of the same issues, so, I think that, working for a 2-year and maybe, in that process, maybe let's talk about all the other issues that we have in that and how we work together. Because that, one of the things that we need to do a better job at is working together. Cambridge is dependent on our lake people and our residents. Your businesses need us. Conversely, we need the businesses. So we need to be doing a better job of working together. And so, if we can get something like this going where we sit down, we have time, we're not under a crunch, we can talk things out, everybody can think about that, we can experiment and try some things. And maybe we can address a whole bunch of those issues and come up then with a good solution and maybe end up doing, because Potter's not gonna last forever, and North Street, if it doesn't go underwater soon, maybe we could do something with it, But again, we've got to cooperate and we've got to work out how that's going to happen and deal with those kinds of issues. So that,
Would you care to make a motion?
sure. Lisa, you get all that I talked about? Susan's really good. She can just say, yes, Ted, I got it. Okay. So I move whatever, basically
you
that we'll
said.
create a working group between the two to study this issue and work through that.
2 representatives from Town of Oakland, 2 representatives from
I'm
Village of
flexible.
Cambridge, and possibly,
And maybe we can bring in our street people if we need to
All right.
as
Okay.
advisors to us.
all right, so that's your motion? Do we have
That's
a
my
s-
motion. You got that, Lisa?
Okay. Anybody care to make a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all right. I agree with you, Ted. The village is very close with Lake Ripley and the town of Oakland, and the town of Oakland and Lake Ripley is very close with Cambridge. We should be able to handle this some way, somehow. We don't have to figure out a solution tonight, but it does involve a willingness to sit down and say, okay, let's get serious now about, all of the issues and what can the school do and what do we do, and LRIP grants and town standards versus village standards, and kind of taking it from there.
I know you're gonna vote, and so just for discussion purposes, not knowing where the rest of the people stand, the idea of doing something temporarily, looking for opportunities, if that would be the direction of both entities to whoever the 4 people are selected, whether or not you should put a focus on looking for a temporary solution while you look for a long-term solution. So I'm not telling you what to do, but I thought that was a pretty good comment, not meaning you have to do it next year. Just, would you guys be supportive of that committee looking for a temporary solution to work together, or are you thinking just keep looking at long-term? And I don't know who the 4 people are, but I guess some direction from the group, whoever it is. I guess I'm curious to see where you guys stand.
There's another issue here that hasn't been talked about. In 2006, we did a joint agreement with, joint intergovernmental agreement with the village.
Okay.
Oakland did. And we turned over Potter, North Street, and Blue Jay Way to the village. And we have been, we have been giving them the aids that, the road aids that we get since that time. Their argument a couple years ago was that road aid only covered snow plowing and whatever.
Yeah.
We had a legal opinion on that, and it includes everything there. So since 2008, in the minutes of meetings, we've been talking about getting these roads annexed into the village.
Yeah.
And it's always been in the hand of the Warren Meyer.
Country? Yeah.
And nothing's ever gotten done. So 2 years ago, our clerk treasurer looked into it because he come out of the town of Blooming Grove.
Yeah.
And he said, you should be able to annex those roads even if you have an island in there, because it happens up there. So it was a matter of us petitioning to have it done. The state accepted that, but the village refused to annex the roads.
Yeah, first of all, you got a topic, and that's probably a heated topic that I can guarantee you we could spend all day on. And I'm gonna give you my 2 cents, because I've been around for a long time with this kind of fun talk about annexations and stuff. I'll tell you right now, you have an attorney with a legal opinion, I guarantee I could have 3 attorneys in here and have 5 different opinions. And that's what sucks about it, is that ambiguity, that unclarity and stuff like that is absolutely something that what happened in 2008 versus what you're gonna move forward could be something that we could get bogged on for a long time, which is fine. That's your right, and that's the village's right to try and argue that. If we agree that there's a problem, how to move forward, you guys are gonna have to decide how you wanna do it on each side. Annexation, you're absolutely correct. You as a petitioner of the owner of the land has the right to ask for annexation at any time. You do. You can get it approved at the state, but I'll promise you, the village has control whether or not to accept it. Majority of my time that I've seen this happen, it's usually landowners, and the roads are always secondary to this. But I have seen roads annexed in. The question you asked about islands being created, you're absolutely correct. You can create as many islands as you want. They don't guide it, they don't say it, but that is not a requirement for annexation. The problem is, what I typically see is once a community accepts somebody else's road, the requirement is that you build it up to their standard before they take it over too. And you don't want to hear that part, I know, because I've seen it in some Prairie and other places, that counties and people are handing off roads to other people. Even the town of Albion over here got stuck with a road, and they had to build it up to a standard before they took it over. And so there's certain things that come with it that you want to hear certain parts, but when you go to it, we can sit here and argue all day, and I really don't want to go down there because no one's going to come out ahead. And so the more we talk about it, the more you're going to spin your wheels, knowing that what you said before, we got to start cooperating. I was just trying to offer you a way that if I can get this down to 10, 15, or 20% cost, it just might make it easier then for everybody to swallow, get this over, and move on to other things that you have.
Okay.
So,
All right. Chuck, did you have a quick question? Because we have a motion and a second.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring something up real quick. So it sounds like Oakland, you guys don't want to champion a joint grant, and that's fine. I understand that you guys have other stuff going on, but say the village champions the joint grant. Do we have anything to lose? 'Cause I want to capitalize on this grant. We don't know if this is going to come up again. We might get to 10%. What do we have to lose? If we get then we can look at coming back and, hey, we can split the 10%. Say if it's 50-50 and it doesn't
you're
work.
with Cambridge.
I'm with Cambridge. I'm
All right, thank you.
Chuck Franklin.
You lose the opportunity like they do for the other one that you might be applying
there
for.
other
So
roads?
you guys have to make that
And
choice.
that's something I wanted to bring up as well, Chris. What's the other road we're looking at?
I believe it is Johnson, and it's pays a rating of 3 to 4. I just submitted that today. Some of the administrative issues with that is, even in my scroll down screen, I can't populate Blue Jay Way because it's not in Cambridge.
Yes.
It's not our.
We'd have to get permission from the state to include it and get permission to do it, so we'd have to look in that for you as a village to do that, yes.
But is Blue Jay Way important?
It would definitely bump the road that I submitted today.
I don't, but for the safety of our kids.
Yeah, but we still need Oakland
Right. And
to
that's,
work with us on that. And
right, and that's what I'm asking, would you guys, if we champion Grant, would you guys get behind, work with us and just see what happens? See if we get it, great. If not, then we'll, we can still join that committee and work towards something 2 years down the road.
We've been working on Park Road for 2 months. We're probably a week away from submitting that application.
Yes.
I can't imagine that we'd ever get an application, with you championing it, we'd ever get that application done by the 8th of November.
I can have it done by in 2 days.
But again, do you have the authority to do it?
That's what I gotta verify. Once I have the authority, then I could do it.
See,
And then you'd have to figure out, because it would be at village standards, correct?
Well, I told you, if I was submitting it, it'd be the Taj Mahal.
But we're supposed to go high.
Yes.
Yeah,
We
well,
need to go
I
high.
understand that, but Cambridge, or excuse me, Oakland's not interested in participating any more than what town standards would be for that road.
So if you're willing to pay $60,000, I'll take it.
We would be willing to pay, if it was an 80-20 split, let's say, we would be willing to pay the 20% of the $80,000 or $60,000, not the $1 million.
If
Okay.
you make it to town standards, you can annex it.
Again, you want to get the grant and pay a small portion. You want me to submit a $60,000 ineligible project. So I'm just saying that this has the opportunity to get a road. Again, I'm trying to get to the common interest, but if you're not interested, it sounds like you wouldn't even support and submit. That's what I'm hearing from, and I don't know who's all from the township, so I'm just
No,
talking out loud.
the question I got is, the submission that you'd make would be for what? A Taj Mahal?
Yeah.
And the town of Oakland isn't interested in participating in that, because
But
we
you're
don't
paying
build roads
60,
that
you're
way.
paying 60,000 regardless if you're building the Taj Mahal or you're resurfacing it. It's still 60,000. So you're getting a better road
If it's an
for the
80-20
same.
split, it's 20% of $60,000.
You can't submit it like that.
That's not an eligible project.
So you're paying $60,000 out of your own pocket.
I understand that, but
Okay.
our portion would be 20% of what the town standards on that road would be.
But you're using the grant when you can't. If you were gonna submit an $60,000 project, but what I'm proposing, you split it 50-50 with no money. You'd be paying $30,000 anyway. You wouldn't get a grant for that. So if you're comparing to the $60,000 to $1 million, they're not the same project. So to me, if you wanna do the $60,000 project, I'd be talking to you about just splitting it and doing the surfacing.
Plus, you can get it up to standard so you can do the annexation.
See,
That's
I
what's
thought your
holding up your
argument-
annexation as well.
I thought your argument would be, listen, if I can afford to get this road done for $60,000, which is what you had asked them for, and the road gets rebuilt to village standards, and then you get to wash your hands of it with some type of agreement where it's never gonna be your problem for future generations, that's what I would have been asking for. If I was a township, just get rid of it.
Our view right now is it's not our problem.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
we've got the
That's-
intergovernmental agreement that states that.
But the
That's-
county doesn't see it. The county doesn't care
Yeah,
about
you're
your
right.
inter.
Now we're gonna get into it. I think you had a motion on the floor, you better just get,
I would
Right.
I would just go back to say, this is why I think my solution, or the recommendation, offers a long-term solution to a lot of these issues.
All right.
And
Can you read the motion back, Lisa?
To create a work group to work through this, looking at short-term, long-term goals to people from each community, bring in public works if needed.
doing okay?
Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm. and I suppose you can with a target date of the next grant cycle,
Okay.
okay, which would be in.
And that
2
meets
years.
your,
Can I ask you a question? So if we were to do the short-term fix, how would that affect the PACER rating and then our eligibility for reimbursement?
Yeah, I think
If
it's a
only
6
2
as a
years from now?
cutoff. Again,
What's that?
putting a little surface overlay, it won't go up high, it shouldn't. But you're right, if you do a resurface, I don't think you'll be looking at it in 2 years.
So it'd have to be farther out than
Yeah,
two.
which is good. I mean, don't get me wrong, putting a surface and having it last is part of maintenance. If you can get 6 years to 10 years out of it, you know, that's better for the kids. That's absolutely a great idea. I just didn't know if that's even an interest
Let's
to.
patch it then.
What's that?
Let's just patch it and make
Well-
it a little bit better, and we'll still go for
Let's
the
just say you
grant.
do a patch or a chip seal. I don't know what the road condition is, but you might get 4 years out of it then.
okay, all right.
I'd say.
Lisa, we have a motion, we have a second. I'm gonna ask you one more time, just because then I'm gonna go to roll call, please. Can you repeat, recite the motion?
To create a work group to work through this, looking at short-term and long-term solutions. 2 people from each community bringing in public works if needed, with the target date of the next LRIP cycle.
Good?
Yep,
That's good. Okay, roll call, please.
Rose, Franklin,
No.
Whitworth,
No.
Galler,
No.
Cumbier,
No.
Schaefer Weiss,
No.
McNally,
Yes.
Didion, Griffin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Bratney,
Yes.
Capson.
Yes.
5 to 5.
What's that mean?
Well,
I'd like to propose a slightly different motion, so rather than set it out 2 years, because we know if we do a short-term fix, we wouldn't have a very good PACER rating, so can we push it out farther? I think that was my hesitation on voting no, because in 2 years from now, if we do a short-term fix, it's not, we probably won't get a grant money anyways. Maybe push it out, unfortunately, but, I don't know.
For 4 years.
6 years, 4 years?
I'm fine, let's,
Yeah.
let's see what we can do. We need to get beyond this issue.
Okay, do
This
you
is-
wanna make
this
a
is killing
motion,
us.
Eric?
Same thing that we just had, to create a long-term solution.
I want
for the road.
some guarantee though that this road shows up and that the next group of people who come through here carry the same issues and then we don't get it on, like, we have a work, like, it's
This has
gotta.
been going on for a long, long time.
I know, so if it's not showing up in the next 2, if it's not showing up on this cycle, and it's not showing up in the 2-year cycle, what guarantee that I vote for it now, is it gonna show up in the 4-year cycle? Or is it just gonna keep getting kicked down the road and not ever fixed?
Well, we can't make decisions for future boards anyways, so you can't set something up where then they have to vote on it.
Well,
Can't
I
set
wish
precedent.
I could.
Okay, all right.
Because that's taking the vote away from a future board, so.
All right, Eric, do you wanna make a motion? Or have you?
I made the motion, but doesn't mean anyone has to second it.
Well, that's what I'm gonna ask for.
My motion stands,
Okay.
Same motion with what timeline?
4 years.
I will second that.
Okay. All right, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion before we vote?
Read the motion.
Chris,
Okay, can you,
Chris,
Chris?
So Eric, with your 4-year plan, what gets done with the road now?
No, something has to get done. Short-term,
Looking for a short-term.
yeah, that would be the goal is right now to find a short-term solution, whether
So
it
the
be a mill and
committee will be
overlay.
focused on coming up with a short-term solution and make recommendations to both boards.
That's basically what Ted's
Kind of.
motion was.
Yeah, just the time frame was
Yeah,
wrong.
it's.
I drove down it today, it's terrible.
Short-term for,
Okay.
I think the key is that he wants to see a focus on doing something temporarily to make it further and work together. So if you put the committee with a focus on a temporary solution, along with knowing that it's gonna be a long-term,
but it has to be both, because otherwise we really haven't addressed the long-term issue. It
Yeah.
has to be both.
Right.
That's right.
Okay.
Which the
Chris,
long-term
did
can
you have
include
anything else?
annexation and all the other.
I just wanted some clarification, thank you.
Okay, all right. Can you repeat the motion.
That's get turned over to the village.
Right.
So the road's in question.
So again, create a work group to work through this, looking at short-term as a goal and extending to long-term solutions to people from each community, bringing in public works if needed, with a long-term goal of a solution within 4 years.
Okay.
What's the timeline on the short term? Seeing it's been seconded. Expect it done sooner than later.
Whatever the group decides, I mean, the four of them and
Take the
my engineer.
recommendation of the group, I
Yeah.
guess.
You gotta put the trust in the four, that they might not have the budget to do it this year, but they might, so in prices, I've already told you what I think is gonna happen there. I think it's very fair to come back with a solution for both that addresses schedule for short-term and the type of repair, which I have no clue what the road looks like, so I'm just speaking on behalf of both. I think it's only fair to say that they should be coming back with recommendations this year, which would include timing and the type of repair, and estimated budget, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, all right. We've got a motion and we've got a second. Roll call, please.
Switched up this time. Griffin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Bratney,
Yes.
Capstner,
Yes.
Rose, Franklin,
Yes.
Whitworth,
Yes.
Galler,
No.
Kumbier,
Yes.
Schaefer Weiss,
Yes.
McNally.
Did you call my name? Yes. Paying attention. Okay.
Congratulations, guys, we'll see you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job.
Okay, so we have this. What I can do, Town Chair, is I will make sure that this is part of our next, we don't want to set the committee up now. So we'll just, do this at our next meeting. And we will, that'll be in 2 weeks from yesterday, correct? All right. And then I'll get the names over to you, and you let us know when your next meeting is. If you've got a couple people that are interested, and we'll go from there, get something done.
Susan, you want to put that on the next agenda?
The next meeting is on November 16th.
Right, you want to put that on the agenda?
That's, yep.
Okay. All righty. Thank you, everybody. This has been a long
Yeah.
issue. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 6, solar projects. And just to give you, give everybody here, just an update. I mean, we've got Invenergy is going to, they want to take over 6,600 acres. Where's Wyatt? He's not here. And they want to put panels on 2,600 acres, and you know all about that. That's going on immediately to our west. And you have, and we're trying to learn from different groups. Did you have a solar project that was out there, and I don't know where it's at, and if there's a way we can learn from what you're doing with yours?
We'll have a 600-acre project west of Highway G, which is the town line.
Okay.
It'll be adjoining a 600-acre project with the town of Jefferson on the east side of G. And that, in turn, will be hooked up to I don't know how big the Alliant Energy one is it?
It's bigger than
It's like 800 acres or something. So grand total is going to be almost 2,000 acres. And it's over on the east side of Oakland and the west side of town of Jefferson.
Okay.
Is there a name for that project, like?
Badger Solar.
Badger Solar.
Badger Solar, okay, that's what I thought.
How did that,
And that's due to construct starting the last quarter of '22 for completion in '23.
Right.
Okay.
And it sounds similar from what I read yesterday, in that they're not anchoring this into concrete. These are steel that then eventually can be removed at the end of the life of the project. And that sounded similar to what I read yesterday, so.
All right. Okay. And that's all approved, and that's going to go through, and
There's an environmental study being done. I don't know what that involves, and I think it's on the county level. But beyond that, it's been approved. It's been approved for a year. Actually, they were supposed to start this year. They pushed it back because of getting a better source of financing.
Okay. Ted, you had a question?
Do these projects come into your ETJ?
Coming from what?
Do they encroach on your ETJ, or do they stay away from that? Where you can do,
So they don't have an ETJ.
you
We
know?
don't, no.
They're a township, so
We're
they're
township,
just their
we don't-
borders.
But it came within our, within our limits. And there were public, we went through the same process you did, had the public hearings. We had 4 people come up and testify, 2 opposed and 2 in favor of that. And I have to tell you, the people who objected, I hate this, objected on aesthetics more than anything else, and ultimately Ranger Power made some concessions on setbacks and borders to do that as a result of that.
I got one other thing. Gene, you were talking about the type of solar panels and stuff going in. It sounds like Cambridge doesn't have any say on the project within energy. They're just gonna put the cheapest panels in they can find, and that's good enough.
Well, I can't,
You know,
can't really
I don't.
respond to that, because I don't know. What they're doing on, on the Badger Solar one is, they're driving I-beams into the ground.
You know?
There's no concrete. And then they put a framework on top, and the solar panels are mounted to that, and they tip with the sun. Much more than that, I can't tell you.
Is there a battery storage?
They're going right directly to the,
Power
The
substation.
switch station down there?
yeah, the substation on
89.
89,
Yeah.
Okay.
89 and 18 down there.
So there's no battery storage, no
Not that I'm
fire,
aware of, no.
no special equipment, and any expense associated with that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Lisa, you and I talked about this. Am I missing anything here?
Yeah, when we talked about it, part of the discussion was, this is something the fire commission should be looking at too, as they would be responsible for that in Oakland as well as if this happens here.
If who would be responsible?
The fire commission, the fire department.
Well, we don't have there's no battery storage
Yeah,
facility
but
there.
you still can have a fire underneath the panels. It can burn pretty good.
Yeah, you could.
I can see that
Certainly,
burning up to 600 acres.
if it's a brush fire or
Yeah.
a grass fire, the fire department certainly be involved.
In our case, that would not be the Cambridge Fire Commission, because that's an area.
That's all in the Fourth
contracted with-
District.
With Jefferson,
Okay,
so it's not a
Think
fire
about-
commission issue.
all right, okay. All right, well, that takes care of that. We didn't have anything else, did we, Lisa?
No,
Okay, all right. And yours is, it'll be active then in 23?
Supposedly in 23, it should be active.
Okay, all right. And then you have an arrangement where there's funding to the town of Oakland from the...
Town of Oakland, town of Jefferson, and the county of Jefferson.
And when they decommission them, are they gonna take everything out that you put in? Everything now?
Mhm.
Because we're told that they'll take everything below 4 feet, that's it.
Above.
They're gonna cut it off. They're gonna leave the cable trenches with the cables in there, because it's 4 feet or deeper. And which I think is really crummy. If they put it in, they should take it out.
Okay, all
I
right.
just was wondering what,
All right.
you guys are coming up with.
We just wanted to get an update on
But that-
where you were at with
it's
your
true, too.
solar
Rocks
panel.
back there, should tell you.
I hate the word farm because it's not farming. I mean, it's not tractors and cows and bale hay.
Well, the state decided it was a use of ag use, So that
Yeah.
carries a lot of weight.
And we just redid Jefferson County's comprehensive plan over the last year and a half, and we had that debate and discussion about whether solar farming was agricultural use and could be done in our ag. Because you have to understand, Jefferson County, outside of the town of Oakland, it is all ag preservation land. And so it had to pass muster that this would be considered a valid ag use. And by adding the native plants that would increase bees and other pollinators, that also factored into that. And when we finished the plan, it was, that's a valid ag use.
All right.
That's not gonna be the dairy state.
All righty. Any other questions before we move on?
Well, we bought
All right.
our dairy.
You got any questions here from this side?
No,
Okay, all right, thank you for the information. Potential growth. And I have that down here at 7, correct? All right. You have let's start with, you have a new, the Didion Project. That's right there on 1218.
On 18.
18
Yeah.
and 8.
I'm sorry, 18, going into Jefferson. How big is that? And, you know, I'm just curious for schooling, students, and, you know, shopping, as Ted was talking earlier.
I'll let Ted address that, as he's been the guy in charge of that.
It's going to be roughly 60 acres, but we've taken a large portion of this that was wetlands and have turned it into natural resource land, which prohibits any development of it and is only eligible for bridle pass, walking pass, wetland storage, all of that. So we've taken a number of acres out.
Excuse me, you said bridle paths?
Mhm.
Is that for like horses?
Mhm.
So there'll be trails so people could,
It's conceivable, okay?
Oh, okay, all right.
It's a permissible use
That's
under
a permissible use
under the
of the
zoning
wetland.
regulations.
Of the
okay, all right.
We've been in contact with Margie, right? And we'll be
Thank you.
talking more, so, and she'll have some input on that process. We, according to our comprehensive plan, we require that any development of this size, they enter into a development agreement with us that we manage with them, and it has to meet the criteria of providing housing for all age groups and varieties and styles. So there will be a portion of it that will be senior housing, there will be a portion that will be multifamily, and there will be, the larger portion of property will be single-family, but of varying
Price
types
points.
and styles to meet that. And we're just in the process of getting started. We've just finished all the zoning work that we needed to do with the county, and we're in the midst of negotiating the developer's agreement, and like I say, talking with Margie, other people. We've already confirmed with the sanitary district that there is plenty of capacity to deal with this. I have a letter from them on that. We've worked largely with our county, because we're one of the few that does manage our own projects. And so the county, but we use the county's ordinance, so we interface with the county a lot in terms of that. So,
Just one quick question, what are you gonna do with water? Is everybody gonna have an individual well, or?
yeah, we will be doing wells, maybe joint wells, particularly when we're doing the multifamily.
How far is this away from Cambridge?
This is all the way out to 18 and 8.
It's way out,
Huh?
way out there, yeah.
Yeah, it's a ways.
But you'll be tied in with septic, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
With
sanitary.
sanitary district.
So the 60 acres, how many home sites do you have at this point?
There's really not a firm plan. at this
Yeah,
point, but
it was submitted on a concept, and I want to say there were like, and don't, this, because I'm working from memory, it could be 40-ish, single family, 20, and don't write them down, Mark, because I don't have that
okay.
right in front of me, because we didn't really worry about it. That's part of our development process,
Okay.
in that. And one of the things that we'll look at too is, we're getting input from some of the realtors as to what's in the greatest demand, and we may adjust what we've done based on that. And I'm pretty certain that Mr. Didion will have a marketing study done before we get to preliminary plat to make sure that we've done it. This will be a ongoing process for us. The board assigned me to continue to work through with this, and
So this is all residential, so you won't have any TIF in there?
No, there's no commercial. And it's not a good place to put commercial, quite honestly. I'd love to have a quick trip right there, but
We'd have to put that where the sex offenders are.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
yeah.
All righty. Other developments, other commercial activities, potential growth, anything else going on with town of Oakland?
No, you have to understand that we have to meet a criteria of over 75% of our property developed before we can enter into a new one. And Susan, correct me, we're up to 85% occupied, and a lot of those are never gonna be sold. There's a lot where my mom grew up that is in a trust in Salt Lake City, and I've written them, because I'd love to own the property and build my final retirement home. And they ignore you. And several, so at 85, the rest of those properties probably will never be developed. So now this will open up new lots. We won't do any other major development. We'll do a lot here or there until we are way down the road with this one.
Okay.
So, and we only really have 3 to 4 remaining parcels that could support let's say a 5-acre or greater development. And we're limited to our urban service area.
Right.
Which is 1218A, and then up to where our intergovernmental is with you guys at Park.
All righty. Well, we wish you nothing but success with this project. And, Mr. Didion, it seems like he's a pretty solid individual. And, he can deliver on any promises that he's making. So I would expect it'll be a wonderful addition to the
Well,
area.
I've been impressed dealing with John in that I think we had a discussion last night and the commitment to do this right, and to take into account what the needs are, to be careful about water, to be careful about drainage, to be, developing. He did not need to rezone to that natural resource, but he did that, which then creates a forever green space that cannot be developed.
And a
That's
filtering-
not something,
and a
that's not something
filtering space for-
every developer would do. So,
And a filtering space for stormwater.
yeah, it does a lot of things for this. So.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that update on your development.
Do you have a comprehensive plan?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
It's a little old, but we have one. We'll be redoing that. I think the last time was, 2000, I was going to say 3.
Are you not required, ours are required
Every
for every
10
10 years, have to be
I think ours is up in 3 years, 2006.
Hmm?
We're up in a couple of years, 2000, or 25.
Okay.
Okay, any questions on this? All righty, let's move on. Cable Commission. Lisa?
I'm gonna turn it over to Gary.
Hello, Gary.
Gary gets to go on camera?
Real quick, I've seen the last couple of months, both boards have addressed the issue of getting the cable commission back up and running. So that's good, because on the first, or near the first, I'm gonna be retiring from my day job and starting a process, an overdue process of updating our processes and equipment. So I will need a cable commission. We have $77,000 to spend on equipment. I have started the process a little bit I met with my counterpart from Lake Mills last Friday. They undertook an overhaul a few years ago, big job, but it has to be done. And I've also contacted a group out of Madison, audio-visual integration. I'm hoping they can help with the transition. But, so after the first of the year, we'll be making some changes. Questions?
We've been talking about upgrading, shouldn't say upgrading, installing a sound system in our room, in our conference room. Is that something we could have one microphone to do the TV and also broadcast in the room?
I think it's the same thing.
No, well, yeah. Well, right now, they have 6 mics over there. If they were all live, I could just get it out of a speaker.
Okay. And still use it on the TV?
Yeah,
It wouldn't affect?
I would have, this would be right up in the speaker, go right into there
Yeah.
then.
Okay.
So that would definitely work. But you would all have to have a mic. But to amplify it within the room.
Right.
And then I just pick up the ambient sound or be close enough.
We're not getting any younger out there, so we got, all the old people like myself can't hear. So it'd be nice to be able to have a speaker out there.
Yeah, Ted talks about that too. Is it for me?
So do we want to set up a date? We've got our members right in town of Oakland, Tom, and
I
that's.
think we have one vacancy still to fill.
On our,
What is the makeup?
Two, and one, isn't there
So we
one?
do have 2 village. You have 2 in Oakland.
Yeah.
Do we have the at-large person?
Steve
Or
Anderson?
do,
Is he still there?
Well, who mentioned him? Did you mention Steve Anderson a couple months
Steve
ago?
Armstrong.
Steve Armstrong.
Oh, Steve Armstrong, yeah, that's right.
Problem is whether he's available in
We
the winter.
we better check with
Yes.
Steve.
To touch base with.
is he an at-large one?
He would be the at-large.
He may
Okay.
be gone for the winter.
Yeah.
He might be gone for the winter,
Yeah,
but I don't know
He's
for sure.
been leaving for the winter the last few years, so.
But we could still start
Yeah, I think you need to
getting
start.
together.
Yeah, I don't know who would have to have some, because it's been defunct for at least 6 years since Neil died. And so someone would have to call a meeting, perhaps Lisa, and then decide on a chairperson. Because I'm just an employee, I don't have anything to do with the money or setting anything up. I just got out of that before I even started 21 years ago, so. But yeah, after the first of the year, we're gonna start the ball rolling.
I think that's a good idea.
you okay with that, Lisa?
Yeah, I'll touch base for and work with Susan Renaud.
All right, okay. Gary, I think you do a wonderful job. I was surprised today, I don't go to Facebook, but it showed up on my phone, and you had the meeting from last night. You must,
Yeah, I was there about 6:15.
yeah, you must really have no personal life, but anyway, just to want to film this stuff, and thank you for what you do. It
I
is-
was disappointed. I watched when they were watching today, and there was an awful lot of glare in the room between Gene and I, so I would like you to fix it.
You're very cap.
Okay. Matters for further consideration. Anything else other than you've got the motion here to set up a group? Anything else that we should be putting on the agenda or giving to our respective administrators?
Are we gonna set up a time for the next meeting?
We can, we meet, once a year.
Usually it's annually.
You want to do it again next year about this
Unless
time?
other matters.
That's typically when we do it in the fall. I think probably the best way to do that is come in August,
Yep.
send a note around, find out when people are available.
Okay.
And we can set it now, but
Yeah.
we won't have a clue what we're doing then.
All right, so we'll do it out in town of Oakland?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, anything else? All right, looking for number 8.